Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Your Excellency, we welcome you. Can we put our hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen? Let me welcome here the man that we are celebrating, the President of the Senate, His Excellency Dr. Godswill Akpabio, CON. He's here with his lovely wife, Her Excellency Norma Akpabio. I welcome you. Thank you very much. Let me welcome the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD. Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, I welcome you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. The Deputy Senate President is here, Distinguished Senator Jibrin Barao. I welcome you, Your Excellency. The Chairman of APC, Dr. Abdullahi Umaru Ganduje. I welcome you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. Also here, we welcome the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhuri Badu. I'd like to welcome the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Right Honorable Ben Okeze Kalu. I welcome you. You're welcome. Thank you very much. And also here is the Chief of Staff to the President, His Excellency Femi Gbajabiamila. I welcome you. I welcome all of you, governors that are here, honorable ministers that are here, our royal fathers. I welcome all of you. Let me also specially welcome the chairman of today's event, former President of the Senate, Distinguished Senator Ayim Pius Ayim GCON. I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker, former President of the NBA, Mr. Olisa Agbakoba, our discussants who are professors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, it is with pleasure that I welcome all of you to this amazing event, the colloquium in honor of the President of the Senate, in honor of the amazing, uncommon President, uncommon President of Nigeria. But because he's a man of prayer, we will take the second stanza of the national anthem as our prayer this morning. And I'll take the lead here. And it goes, please shall all rise as we take the second stanza of the national anthem. O God of creation, direct our noble course, guide our leaders right. Help I use the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true, great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. All say, Amen. Thank you very much. And so, Your Excellencies, it's with pleasure that I welcome all of you to this 61st colloquium. For those that are into numbers, 61 is called an angelic number. The number is a powerful reminder that when we stay true to ourselves, use our creativity, and trust our intuition, we will make anything possible. And this really captures the life of the man that we are celebrating. A man that stands without flinching in the face of daunting odds. He is an alchemist. in the old-fashioned sense, stubbornly beating drum to remind all of us of realities we love to ignore. He inspires to the point of making people around him to believe they are capable of superhuman feat. So we welcome you as to celebrate in a very uncommon way the uncommon Senate President. So welcome to the colloquium focused on the legislative agenda for national development. My name is Ebere Young, and I will not be here alone. I'll be here with Andy Gabriel, and I'll also be here with a young lady that is a pride of Nigeria. Harvard trained. Right now, she is an associate professor in the United States. So when she stands here, she stands carrying the emblem of the nation. Please welcome here Dr. Ronke Bello.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ebere Young, MFR, veteran broadcaster and communication expert. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to move forward this morning, we bring on the chairman, who is one of our nation's finest politicians and public administrators. He was president of the Nigerian Senate between the year 2000 and 2003. He brought his wealth of experience, not just as a lawyer, a legislator, but as one who was a young, astute politician who assisted in bringing stability to our nation's new democratic era at that period. Somehow, he avoided all the political banana peels that bedeviled our country at that time. Your Excellency is remained a holder of our legislative memory, and he serves as one who is still committed to democracy in Nigeria. Mr. President, please permit me to bring here the chairman of this occasion, His Excellency Ayim Pius Ayim, former President of the Senate, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellency.
Very distinguished Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President, Federal Republic of Nigeria. The President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, and his deputy and his dear wife. The Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives and his deputy, the National Chairman of APC, the Principal Officers of the National Assembly, Your Excellencies, our dear state governors present, distinguished and honorable members of the National Assembly, Your Royal Highnesses, our Royal Fathers present, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished Nigerians present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me say that I am greatly delighted to welcome all of you to this colloquium, which is part of the celebration of the 61st birthday of the President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio. Let me also seize this opportunity to commend Senator Akpabio for the wisdom to use the celebration of his birthday to provide a platform for a national discourse on how to strengthen the legislature for greater contributions to nation building. This colloquium with the theme Legislative Agenda for National Development is intended to create a direction for the national legislative activities of the 10th National Assembly. The outcomes of this colloquium will add to the list of the many worthy contributions Senator Godswill Akpabio has continued to make to the peace, unity, progress, and stability of our dear country. I am convinced that distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio has a date with destiny. You have emerged as President of the Senate At a time, so much dexterity is required to redirect the course of our nation, reset our national agenda, and re-envision our future as a people. To many, you have assumed the office of President of the Senate at a difficult time. But to a number of others who knows you well, your capacity to navigate difficult terrains is what earned you the popular appellation uncommon. In destiny, there is no accident. That is why you have become the first president of the Nigerian Senate to work with a senator as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I have no doubt that what made you uncommon is in abundance in the life and politics of President Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu. At a time like this, what is required of the National Assembly is not just lawmaking, but also the ability of the lawmakers to inspire hope and patriotism in the citizens. The task at hand requires a strategic but intentional partnership with the executive. It requires alignment without compromise. I am confident that this legislative and executive alignment will have no space for friction, as the President of the Senate will be working with the Senator as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Part of my duty in this opening speech is to set the tone for this occasion accordingly. Let me therefore take the liberty to say that with Mr. President, members of his cabinet, and the critical mass of members of the National Assembly here present, there is no better platform to discuss our agenda as a nation. At the core of every national agenda are the critical ingredients of nation building. Nation building has been described as constructing a national identity using the power of the state. It therefore aims at the unification of the people within the state so that it remains politically stable and economically viable. I may bold to say that physical infrastructure alone do not build a nation. National spirit is an indispensable element for nation building. It is therefore my expectation that this colloquium will set the agenda for our national rebirth. The need to align legislative agenda with the executive agenda cannot be overemphasized, as both, when properly aligned, will reset national priorities, benchmark national interest, and redefine development to include the following. A, national integration as an indispensable tool for political stability. B, economic well-being and security of lives and property as a fundamental essence of government. C, rule of law and protection of citizens' rights as the foundation for patriotism. As a governor, we celebrated Senator Akpabio as the uncommon governor of Akpabio State. Today, as the President of the Senate and Chairman National Assembly, I want to remind him that it will be his ability to deliver on the national agenda that will make his leadership of the 10th National Assembly uncommon. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not a prophet, but I dare assure Nigerians that at the end of the tenure of Senator Akpabio, he will emerge as the uncommon President of the Senate of our time. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to once again welcome you to this colloquium and to heartily appreciate your presence here today to celebrate one of Nigeria's best and brightest, distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, in this auspicious occasion of his 61st birthday. I welcome you all.
Let's appreciate him one more time with another round of applause. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is very clear that the man we are celebrating is absolutely uncommon. From the time he was governor, he remained uncommon, and he's still uncommon now. Some people say he is Akwa Ibom's gift to Nigeria, but others call him the man of the season. But one thing is very clear in his lifestyle. As a leader, he shows the way, he knows the way, he goes the way. There are 4 qualities in a leader that he embodies: courage, clarity, humility, and capacity. And one man that is here that has those same qualities and has become more like a Siamese twins is the Deputy Senate President of Nigeria. Please join us and welcome this evening Senator Barau Jibrin.
Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, CON. Your Excellency, the Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Dr. Tajin Abbas, Your Excellency, the Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Benjamin Kalu, the APC National Chairman, Dr. Abdullah Umar Ganduje, the Leader of the Senate and other principal officers of the Senate and the House of Representatives, distinguished senators and members of the House of Representatives, former President of the Senate that are here, Your Excellencies, the Executive Governors and the representatives that are here, Honorable Ministers and Head of our MDAs, our Royal Fathers, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with tremendous pleasure that I welcome you to this colloquium in honor of our brother and friend, distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, CON, the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This event is a culmination of events to mark his 64th birthday. After a grand reception in Uyo, the beautiful capital of Akwa Ibom State, to honor this patriot of our time, the former governor of the state of Akwa Ibom, who in 8 years at the helm of affairs in that state created a template for good governance that ushered in the excellent transformation of Akwa Ibom State. He is regarded as the architect of the modern Akwa Ibom State. A former minority leader, former Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and a member of the Executive Committee of International Parliamentary Union, there is no doubt that Nigerians want to live in peace and exploit our vast God-given resources for the benefit of our people. There is no doubt that Nigerians value democracy and would love to live together in peace and harmony. The good thing is that the current administration, led by our dear President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, is in collaboration with the National Assemblies, is determined to deal with our aforementioned issues in order to usher in prosperity into our country. On this note, I would like to repeat that the purpose of this colloquium is to invite the people who elected us to show greater interest in the process of legislation and to participate in finding a common ground that produces a consensus on how to maintain law and order, improve governance, and put our nation on the path of growth and sustainable development. Once again, I congratulate our dear brother, friend, and leader, Chief Dr. Akpabio, GCON, on his birthday, and best wishes as we serve our people. I welcome all of you. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for him, please. Your Excellency, Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. For this all-important lecture, we have a galaxy of stars from both the legal and the academic worlds. Hope is said to be a currency, renewed hope, the bargaining chip. And the world, Nigerians, the sub-region, Africa, indeed the Committee of Nations, believe that the legislature has a huge role to play in getting the executive to get to where Nigeria is destined to be. So, the title of this lecture is Legislative Agenda for National Development. National for 220 million Nigerians is a huge tax, but we have a president, and we have a president of the Senate and the Speaker, and of course the Chief of Staff came from that constituency, so it can all just be good. At this point, I would like to bring on the discussants who are already here, and then my co-compere, Ebere, will introduce properly the guest lecturer and bring him on. One of our discussants, of course, is someone we know, a tax administrator, a public officer, a social reformer. Please help me welcome Mr. Babatunde Fowler, former chairman, FIRS. He's already with us. While he's coming, Mr. Chairman, please, we need you to sit in the middle before we start the session. Thank you, sir. We have another discussant. Like I said, they're all academics of great achievements. Professor Abiola Sani, Professor of Commercial Law, of Tax and Fiscal Matters, University of Lagos. Professor Sani, you're welcome. Please join us here. And coming after Professor Sani, although not in any particular order, these are giants in the world of the academia. I invite Professor Joash Amokwitan San, Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Jos. You're welcome, Professor. These are all giants, and today they're going to tackle this topic, and I believe tackle it properly. Your Excellency, Ebere.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker is a senior partner and head of arbitration and ADR practice, the group Olisa Agbakoba Legal. He is an alumnus of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and London School of Economics and Political Science. He is a senior advocate of Nigeria. This amazing legal mind is one of Nigeria's leading experts in arbitration and has presided over several complex cases. He is an expert and pioneer in the field of space law and regulation in Nigeria. He used to be the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association. He's here with us, very committed to national development. Please join me as I welcome here Dr. Olisa Agbakoba, SAN. It will not be illegal if we put our hands together for him. Okay, he will go back there after his paper. But let me invite you to the microphone now. You. You're the keynote speaker.
All right, okay. Mr. President, it's good to see you for such a long time. Mr. President is my neighbor and Bodilon. And I was just telling him that we don't see him anymore. Mr. Senate President, you will have to confer the title you conferred on me years ago when we visited your state, and you made me an obong. But I haven't seen the crown. I will focus on solutions. We have problems, I mean, we know it. So there's no point repeating that rice is 60,000, petrol is up. We all know that. I think what we need to look at is, like, you deal with the Constitution. One is Section 8 and Section 9, which you are using, but has taken us 23 years in altering the Constitution. The other one is what he calls constitutional replacement, which happened in 1963, because the Constitution right now is not an act. It is a schedule attached to an act. So Paragraph 1 and Section 4.4 of the Constitution, all you need to do is detach the schedule from the act and replace it with the new Constitution. And that is the matter resolved. Rather than every new assembly, we keep discussing the same issue. Because we can't make economic and political progress if we have a discussion that is lasting 23 years. So that is the point I would like to leave. Second point will be the electoral process. President Tinubu here had a petition, P2B versus President, would have been best addressed to INEC. P2B has no quarrel with Mr. President. If you look at what he stated in his petition, it was like a referee refereeing a match and allowing a goal for Chelsea. And then Chelsea petitions against, say, Arsenal. Well, it's not Arsenal's. It's the referee. So we need to adopt the Kenyan model. The Kenyan model is very simple. A petitioner presents a petition which, if it raises reasonable cause, it convokes a tribunal. The tribunal turns to their own INEC, not to the respondent. So justify the election. Were the PVCs working? Was the BVACs working? Those are not issues that would concern Mr. President, that would concern Mr. President. Those are issues that would be addressed to the Election Management Board. In that way, you will find that the pressure will now turn to the Election Management Board to do their work properly. Because when there's a challenge, the petitioner and the respondent don't fight each other. It is the INEC that carries the brunt. Once that is done, and I was a member of the Always panel, everything will change. And I also recommend the unbundling of INEC. It's doing far too much. INEC is the largest printer of papers in Nigeria. That's not their job. It's not their job to be printing. INEC is doing far too many things. So in the Always petition, in the Always report, we recommended removing the function of regulating political parties by the creation of a political party regulation authority. We recommended creating the Electoral Offenses Commission. So I would urge the 10th Assembly, presided over by its chairman, President Akpabio, to simply enact the recommendations. And that will be the end. That was in 2007 or 8. So many years have passed. The Electoral Act makes a mockery of democracy. So we can correct that mockery by passing all the recommendations of the Always panel. The legal and judicial governance process. By the way, I'm speaking only to a narrow issue of development by which suboptimally. And if governance is well applied across what I'm saying, we can get to optimum performance. The insertion of Section 315 in the Constitution is a horrendous mistake of lazy people. Horrendous error. So what Section 315 does, it allows, for instance, the law, statute of frauds that was passed in the UK in 1635 to still be on our books. In the case of Rwanda, Paul Kagame took a different view. He set up a National Reform Commission, and they amended, modified, and introduced 1,000 new laws in 3 months. So, Mr. President of the Senate, may I respectfully urge that we do away with Section 315, we review our laws, expunge all that is unnecessary, obnoxious, dead, some of the laws passed by when Mr. President was very active in the civil rights movement, all the laws that the military passed, why are they on our books when we're a democracy? So that ought to go. Then, as the president of the Nigerian Bar Association between 2006 and 2008, I know we have suffered legal failure. If you suffer heart failure, you are dead. So for all intents and purposes, we don't have an effective legal system. And in my practice, a lot of clients come and say, if we invest, how long would it take us to go through the courts? And when I say 5 to 10 years, they don't want to come. So if we're looking for investments, we've got to decapitate the legal system of Nigeria. We have to rewrite it. It can't stand. It's too old-fashioned. The same thing with the judicial system. You know, it's sort of ironic for me to say this, not only as a former president, as a senior advocate, as a former member of the Nigerian. It can't stand. It's too old-fashioned. The same thing with the judicial system. You know, it's sort of ironic for me to say this, not only as a former president, as a senior advocate, as a former member of the Nigerian Judicial Commission. But when my dad was CJ of East Central State, we all wanted to protect the judiciary from military incursion. So we ring-fenced the judiciary. So everybody is afraid. No, don't touch their money. Don't do this, don't do this. And that philosophy carries forward today. The judiciary should not be as aloof as it wants to make out. I was the first, accompanied by my brother, Wole Olanekbaku, who applied, because we felt we were qualified, to sit in the Supreme Court. The mafia there threw us out. Threw us out. You know why? Because we still mix administration of justice, which the National Assembly cannot, with respect, interfere, how they do their work, with judicial administration, which the National Assembly can make laws. There should be a law governing the process of appointment of senior judges. We can't leave it to the National Judicial Council. All the Constitution says is, once you are 15 years, you are qualified. But the National Judicial Council and the Supreme Court judges have formed a mafia. And we don't get there. And the Supreme Court is this is, with the greatest respect, the worst Supreme Court I have seen in my 45 years of practice. It has to change. A challenge for the National Assembly is to enact a law that deals with judicial administration. I didn't say administration of justice, so you can't go there, because that is the internal workings of the judiciary. But judicial administration, no, the National Assembly can make laws. You pass a law so that I do not depend on the Chief Justice of Nigeria if I wanted to become a judge. The law will be passed stating the criteria to become a judge. You will find a big change. So I make a strong recommendation to the National Assembly. I now turn to a point which I think deserves special attention. we can't pretend that there's hunger in the land. There's a lot of hunger. But I commend President Tinubu for the bold decisions he took. Very few would have taken it. You are to be commended to remove. In fact, I don't know whether you really thought about it because you said it in your acceptance speech. But that was the correct decision, sir. What needs to follow? What needs to, no, don't clap, please. I'm not interested in claps. What needs to follow is the tough job that the National Assembly must do. You must recognize as leaders of your people that they're suffering. So you must now support the president with consequential legislation that will give them peace. I have introduced in my office, I never knew I would do that, and it's working, and some of them are beginning to have pot belly. I've introduced breakfast and lunch. If you pay, for instance, your driver 100K, rice is 60K, how will he afford it? He can't. So I'm forced to now create a cooking staff for them. That means, Mr. President, not you, sir, this one. That means, Mr. President, that your work is heavy. Your work is heavy. And you know, please remember this, the only way people will respect, I saw you running at the stadium, which means you are loved back in Uyo. If you are not, they won't be there. The only way that all of our political leaders will be relevant in 4, 5, 6 years is to do good today. There's an urgency. Do good today so that you can walk the streets and they say, this is our man. Do good today. Make sure you use don't sleep. Do not be awake. Be awake, be worried about what your people want you to do. Then when you leave, you will find peace. You won't need to be protected because you have done what people wanted. It's, Ashiwaju, great man. Great man. But if those things that people want haven't taken place, no way. So this point I will make now is important. The most important thing we need is economic governance. As I said, Mr. President has taken a number of tough decisions. The Naira is devalued. The only one I haven't heard Mr. President talk about, and I'm sure you will, is how to, personally, I don't like the word restructure. I prefer devolution. The center is too powerful. So I like to see something around devolution so that many people can participate. But in the sphere of economic policy, may I call attention, Mr. President of the Senate, to Section 16 of the Constitution, which actually makes Nigeria a socialist state. I'm not sure if people are aware of it. It makes Nigeria a socialist state. Please, when you read it carefully, the commanding heights of socialist state. I'm not sure if people are aware of it. It makes Nigeria a socialist state. Please, when you read it carefully, the commanding heights of the economy belong to the government. That's not the intention. I think the intention is to make Nigeria a mixed economy, a liberal economy. So if we don't get the ideological basis of Nigeria's political economy right, nothing else will work. So I recommend that Section 16 should be modified. Now, the national economy has 5 fingers. It has the hard economy, it has the soft economy, it has the blue economy, it has the green economy, and it has the brown economy. All these will be tied by 3 important things: fiscal, monetary, and trade policy. Right now, Nigeria has no trade policy, and that, I think, is a big mistake. The last trade policy was in 2017. The CBN, they work on monetary. The CBN is carrying far too much responsibility. And quite sensibly, in the UK, their own CBN, the Bank of England, devolved power to 2 great institutions. And I think we need to see it here. The Prudential Regulation Authority. Their work is to make sure that the public trust we have in our banks is indeed followed. Our banks are not traders. It is a shame that me standing before you, I have never had a loan in this country because they want my grandmother who is dead to come. In the UK, I've had loans because the system works. The Prudential Regulation Authority in the UK ensures that the banks work. In fact, some of us keep saying, how is it in spite of all this poverty, the banks are making tremendous profit? How is it? So where is the money going? We've got to ask, where is it going? Then the banks, if they misbehave, you have the Financial Conduct Authority to keep them in check. So the CBN needs to devolve two important powers, supervision and conduct. In the UK, it is retained within the structure of the Bank of England. But there is a huge institution that ensures that oxygen, money, is in the system. How can Nigeria be described as a country that wants to be in the first 10 when it is not a credit economy? No country survives without a credit system. Nigeria is not a credit economy. So it is a matter of urgency that the National Assembly should look for ways to create a system which economists call gearing, to gear. If you have 100 naira and there's access to finance, you can gear it. When you gear it, then we all become the better. So gearing is crucial to create a credit economy. But it's important that the laws are there. Right now, the laws are not there. So these are some of the tasks that I urge the National Assembly to consider. One of the most important under economic governance is a national credit guarantee cooperation. These are people who give credit. They see your idea, it is good, they give you the money. We need that. When all these are in place, you'll be very surprised. The Nigerian economy will gear up. When I wrote a letter to the Minister of Finance in the last government, the response was, yes, we had forgotten Murphy. You see the name? Murphy, Ministry of Finance Incorporated. In her response, she accepted that Ministry of Finance Incorporated had, this is only a preliminary study, 33 trillion naira. And we say we're poor. And our so-called nonsense budget is 27 trillion. For a country of 200 million? No. Mr. President, sir, to you, sir. Mr. President of the Senate, our budget next year should not be less than 100 trillion. If it is, then we have failed. I don't want to say you have failed. I'll say we have failed. But I know you know what I mean. 100 trillion. Go and look for the money. Look for it. There are 56,000 uncompleted projects around Nigeria. The federal lands alone, the money there is unbelievable. Look at the Federal Secretariat. It's wasted there for the last 40 years, yet we cannot build the road from Ibadan to Lagos when that is 140 billion. What is it doing there? Sell it. Sell it. And don't be involved in things that the private sector can do. And here I talked to Zach, and I told him, and I'm happy that the president's committee mentioned it. No parastatal or department or agency, thank you, should collect revenue. It's not their job. NIMASA, customs, it's not your job. The job of customs is enforcement of customs regulations, not collecting revenue. So all that collection should go to a new National Revenue Agency. They are the ones to collect money, not the individual parastatals that don't even remit. You will then find that the money is not as difficult as you think it is. You can get the money. Because I have only 5 minutes, I'll just quickly show you, because the president has given a task. Nigeria would be $1,000 trillion economy in 6, 7, let me say 10. It is more than doable. It is doable, but it will require absolute hard work. And that's why I'm pointing out to, look at Solid Minerals. My friend that I haven't seen him, Dele, he can do it. He can do it. Nigeria has about 44 or 45 absolutely required minerals, but not the laws. Not the laws. We have legal failure. Now, let me just return to a point I missed in under economic governance. The difference between revenue and capital. They're different things. So revenue is the public revenue is consecrated by Section 162 of the Constitution. Why is it that our leaders only concentrate on tax and not non-tax? There's a lot more money in non-tax than tax. So if you put tax and non-tax together, you're looking at more than 100 trillion. When His Excellency Oyetola had his meeting with us in Lagos, I showed him where to find the money. I showed him. So we can get the money. So it's possible. So tax and non-tax. Public revenue, federal government only has so much. But it is not federal government public revenue that drives the economy. It's capital. Capital. What is capital? Capital is the national asset. Let me just take housing. In Lagos, 98% of the housing have no title. No title. Therefore, you can't take a loan. Nobody will give you. I, standing before you, I have never gotten a loan. But I got a loan in the UK. I bought the first house. Because the legal infrastructure is there, I got the second one. Aren't you happy for me? I got the second one. I went back and I got the third one. But here I build standalone. I build one, I build the next one. Why? The legal infrastructure to draw capital does not exist. And I recommend you read Mystery of Capital by Hernando de Soto. It's a fantastic book. I presume, predictably, that capital, not revenue, is what will drive this $1,000 trillion economy, not public revenue, because public revenue is consumed. You don't have much of it. So I really urge you look at the differences between public revenue and capital. Solid minerals, I've already mentioned it. Trade policy. We can't be a dumping ground. We need to have our own local WTO, which I call the National Trade Office. The last gentleman there who came from WTO, the late Ambassador Osakwe, did a tremendous job, but he wasn't empowered. So we need two things here. A trade policy. We need a National Trade Office established by Parliament. Then we need trade remedies legislation. So the trade remedies legislation is the countervailing power that checks when to raise tariffs. If Trump could do that, the so-called liberal democracy, why can't we do that? They tell us that, no, keep your doors open, and they pour things here. Now, if people keep pouring things here, how can you grow? So we need to worry about the appropriate trade policy. Right now, Nigeria is a dumping ground. And as a dumping ground, we're unlikely to develop. They would be dumping. China is dumping. The China-Nigeria trade agreement ought to be torn to pieces. It ought to be torn to pieces. It is so unbalanced. We have about 29 multilateral and bilateral treaties. Some were written in 1959 when we were not even independent. I hope you know that the people in Paris, they still collect money from Mali, from Niger, and all that. That cannot be if we want to be a sovereign country. Maritime governance, that's my specialty. well harnessed, I told His Excellency, the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy. And by the way, Mr. President, thank you very much for that. That was a great move to create that ministry. It will be the cash cow if the laws are there. If, for instance, I told President Akpabio, I'm your surveyor, you told me to go and survey your land, which you said is only 1,000 square meters. And I tell you, no, it's actually 5. You say, really? You say, please fence it. I was part of the team that studied Nigeria's EEZ, and we're one of 8 countries that the UNCLOS gave an additional 150. We're doing nothing. The Chinese come in the top restaurants in Hong Kong. They refer to it as Nigerian tiger prawns. We are one of the world's leaders in tuna. We have such wealth in our aqua systems that it's a shame we don't understand how to use it. We need to have strong laws. The last time I spoke, I said, we need to have a coast guard. How can you not have a coast guard? Anyone can come to your place, steal your fish in the night, and run away. A coast guard, Mr. President, crucial. A coast guard for all sorts of things. So the $1 trillion economy is possible. A piece of cake. It just requires what one of my partners sent to me, smart. National Assembly must be specific. Don't get up at 9 and come to work at 11 and leave at 12. No. You must be there for the people. Mr. President, I want to see you in 4 years looking older. So that you would have been worn out. You will get up in the night, walking. The work of the National Assembly must be measurable. Must be able to measure it. It must be achievable. There's no point in saying, see, we'll do all this and then you do nothing. It must be relevant. And it must be time-bound because the first 4 years. So if SMART is applied to these principles I have enunciated, I can assure you the price of, which one again is it? The price of rice. The price of rice will go down. We are a great, blessed nation. No climate wahala. No all those things. You see, no Gaza. No this, no this. What's wrong with us? Leadership. When I see 2 great men here, Mr. President here, my neighbor who abandoned me, Mr. President here, who conferred on me, Obong, so I'm waiting for my crown. I can only wish Mr. President the best. Look, what Nigerians want is not court cases. So let me tell you, they are not interested. They are not in. That is the private affair of the PDP and the APC. Now that the APC is there, make us happy. That is all we want.
You know, while Dr. Akpabio was speaking, I was looking directly at the president of Nigeria, and his attention was total. And it just occurred to me that I just hope Dr. Akpabio, at the age of 70, have not talked himself into another national assignment. And so, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the former Senate president is wearing 2 caps here. The first cap he delivered as chairman, but right now, we are putting on the next cap on his head as a moderator, as a handover to him.
Your Excellency, Mr. President of Nigeria, Your Excellency, Mr. Senate President, the Honorable Speaker, you can agree with me that we have an uncommon keynote speaker this afternoon. Well, my duty, I will go straight into. The discussants are all seated, and I need to remind them that our uncommon speaker was straight to the point. He said he needed to speak to solutions only. No theory, no rhetorics. Suggestions on solutions straight away. He said the first major challenge we must tackle is to have peace and security. Well, he has his suggestions on how we should go about this. The military, he said, may not be an option, but the ethnic nationalities may be more effective. I would want to take the issues one after the other, and as I get to a point, I will highlight it then and invite any of the discussants to speak to it. So let me have the honor and privilege to ask Professor Abiola Sani to please give us your perspective on the suggestion about how we can have peace and security without the military.
Thank you very much, the chair and the moderator. Let me use this opportunity to appreciate the President of Senate for creating this platform. If anybody asks what is the big deal about 61st birthday celebration, the fact that you have created this is evidence of the big deal. At least it's an opportunity for us to engage and then follow up quickly on some of the deliverables. And it's also a unique honor to speak at this August occasion where the President is seated. This is the biggest speaking opportunity of my life, and I just hope that a few things I will say will make sense. So now, about security of Nigeria. The first assignment of a government, and any government for that matter, is to secure the people and their property. And I want us to see this in a holistic way. When we talk about government, it's not about federal government alone. It's not even about state government alone. It's also not about the local government alone. We need to look at the entire structure and then build a network where we have so many gatekeepers of this country in terms of security. The federal government alone cannot secure this nation. So there are roles that even subnationals and political entity below subnationals must play. And I want you to look at what we have in our gated communities, where the rich live, where the big boys live. They have practically created something to secure them. A big fence to secure all of them, where they don't need to individually create big fences, high fences, and all that. And we must recognize that it is not cheap. It's not cheap at all to secure the nation. Because to police the geographical, physical terrain of the nation with the army, and also to secure the waterfronts and also the airspace. If we commit all our budget to that alone, I doubt if it is enough, honestly speaking. Because we must envisage a system where before crime is committed, it has been anticipated and the security forces are behind that person. We must envisage what looks like a police state where we have data of everyone. Where before a crime is committed, we have capacity to prevent it, which means there is need for huge budget. And we must think in terms of big figure, in terms of the kind of money that the Speaker envisaged. He said, we are not ambitious enough in our budgeting.
That it's not, for now, a matter of budgeting or a matter of the military, because we've gone through this all the while and it never worked. He is suggesting that the traditional institutions, the ethnic nationalities, could be a more effective option. Do you agree?
I agree entirely, because if you look at the system of this country, especially the North, we used to have native police. That is the first gatekeeper in terms of security. I don't know how we can envisage a system that works and totally disconnect the grassroots and the people who have influence, the people who have power. You see, if when the colonialists came, they were wise enough to recognize the value of that institution. And that is why they created an indirect rule. If they have attempted to do it directly, it would have failed. So we need to leverage that system and develop a system that will work. And of course, at that level, they know all the players, all the people who are creating tension, but do they have the power to actually intervene and solve the problem? So we need to empower them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Prof. Now, the legislative space here is how do we adjust our system, amend our laws or create new laws
a system that will work. And of course, at that level, they know all the players, all the people who are creating tension, but do they have the power to actually intervene and solve the problem? So we need to empower them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Prof. Now, the legislative space here is how do we adjust our system, amend our laws or create new laws let them play a part in our quest for peace and security in Nigeria. And I believe that the National Assembly is taking note. Chief Babatunde Fowler, his second suggestion in this quest for solution, he said, I don't know if you are a lawyer, but he said we should move from transitional legislation to from transactional legislation to transitional legislation, to transformative legislation. And he's saying part of such transformative legislation should include a new legislation to consolidate the bold step Mr. President had taken to remove subsidy. We should be able to develop a legislation that gives it a bone and a backing. He also talked about how do we amend this constitution to now get at what really works for us. His own suggestion is that what the National Assembly is doing presently had been done for so long and it never worked. And he preferred Professor Nwabueze's solution that there could be a constitutional replacement taking cover under Section 41 of the Constitution. What do you say?
Thank you very much, the chairman of the session. But kindly let me acknowledge Mr. President and also the President of the Senate, another distinguished guest. Mr. President, that's the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I may have to ask for your protection. I do not know how I found myself among learned men of the silk, but because I worked under you, I know that you protected me. In terms of legislation, and I think the other discussant, Professor Sani, said it, national development cannot be at the federal level only. It has to be the states. That's the subnationals and the nationals. And permit me to use Lagos as an example. When you have people employed and you have the state government looking after your welfare, then you have peace. When Mr. President was governor of Lagos State in 1999, we had 222,000 taxpayers. And when he wanted to make the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service autonomous, there's some people here that also worked with me in Lagos State. They did not believe his dream. But the reality is that for you to get things done, money is essential. You may have the best leader, but without funding, that vision cannot come to pass. Now, the president of the 10th Assembly, sometimes in creating laws, you may not fully understand the vision of the executive that wants to create that law. And I'll use Lagos as an example. When President Tinubu, who was then Governor Tinubu, wanted to make the LRS autonomous, people in the State House of Assembly sent people to me and to other people to say, what exactly is the game plan of Mr. Governor then, thinking that he had some personal motive. But his motive was to get everybody on board, and we know the way the civil service works. It is very difficult to sack anybody for non-performance. But in creating an autonomous board, people could be sacked without wasting time.
Mr. Fowler, I think you are on a very different terrain entirely. Maybe because you are not a lawyer. I mean, maybe it may have been my mistake. I would have put this question to Professor Amapiton SAN. Prof, are you with us? Okay. Now, how do you think that we can once and for all achieve this constitutional reform that had been the challenge for quite a long time now? He is saying that no matter how you amend the Constitution, using the present process the National Assembly had been going through, that you will not actually get done or get going what the people desire. So he's saying too that importantly, that what is needed is to replace the Constitution. And he has a number of sections in the present Constitution that we can leverage to do this. Do you think we can replace this Constitution outside the process that the National Assembly is going now?
Thank you very much, the chair of the session.
I'll return to you.
The moderator, Your Excellency, the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, the Senate President.
Just go ahead.
I want to stand on existing protocol. Now, the President cannot be here, sir, without acknowledging him. So let me start by saying that the question you have raised, and the learned senior advocate has raised a form of volcano. It's not as simple as he has raised the issue. We are talking of the process of constitutional making. And the argument on this matter has been very checkered, because you have to go back and see the process that brought the Constitution itself. And looking at the preamble of the Constitution, which says that we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, bequeath this Constitution to govern this country. Now, the essence of governance is to achieve the highest happiness for the highest number, according to Dr. Bingham. And if the essence of the Constitution is to have a form of representative government that will be able to translate it into the people and also make the leaders to be accountable and responsible. If that is the case, the major question we have been asking is whether the 1999 Constitution is an act of the Nigerian people. So the point he is making is that we should go back into that act of constitutional making and ensure that the whole constitutional process is that of the Nigerian people and is owned by the Nigerian people. Now, there are two approaches to this. The first approach is amendment. And then the second approach is what you call complete replacement. Now, looking at where we are presently, I you already have a structure, you have the National Assembly. And I'm happy that you are having this colloquium because it's not going to end here. We're still going to go to the drawing board to see how best we can get the best for Nigerian people. Now, you already have the National Assembly Section 4. It's very clear that they have the powers to make laws for Nigeria. And it's like the sovereign. In those days, the parliament used to be so powerful that it can turn a man to a woman and vice versa. And that power still vests on the parliament in Section 4. Because if you look at Part 2, which deals with governance, the parliament comes first. The National Assembly comes first. And they are the representative of the people. Now, it's going to be very difficult to go back on a complete constitutional replacement. What I believe can be done is a process of getting the people to own the constitution itself. Because if we have a constitution that the people do not even believe in, the question is, how do we make the people to believe in this process? So the amendment process can be modified in such a way that the Nigerian people will be carried along. Now, when you talk of an amendment, an amendment can just focus on some sections of the Constitution. The National Assembly has the power to substitute from Section 1 to the end. And if they follow the process, so instead of going back and reinventing the wheel, what I believe is that the National Assembly can go on a wholesome substitution, and in the process of that, bring in the Nigerian people and ensure that they are part and parcel of the process that will bring the amendment. So if you are talking of a replacement, it still has to be through the National Assembly. And I'm happy the Senate President is here, and also the Speaker of the House of Representatives, because the powers to make law belongs to them. And the President of the Federation is also here. He has a vision, so he can only translate the vision through the National Assembly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Prof. And my apologies to Chief Fowler. I think I asked you to wear a dress that is not meant for you. Well, let me say that this issue of constitutional amendment or constitutional change had been a very serious matter, in fact, a national challenge. But I want to think that what we have achieved here is that the keynote speaker had proposed another approach to it. My own observation is that what the National Assembly is doing is what the Constitution, is the process the Constitution prescribed within itself as how it can be amended. But what the Speaker is saying is that you have a window under Section 4.1 and 4.2 to explore other approaches that will give people comfort. Because the real issue about the Constitution and what it stands for today is that most people believe that it's not delivering justice. It's not just a matter of ownership. So the space for new legislation here is for the National Assembly to take a critical look at Section 4.1 and 4.2 and see if there is a window to explore. Thank you. Now, the third one, and I'll come to you, Sani, is on electoral process. And I agree with the Speaker. He says that, look, the issue of BVN didn't work, is it? IREF did not work, card reader did not work, should not be the concern of the contestants. It should be the concern of the electoral umpire. And he recommended that we should adopt the Kenyan model, whereby they will look at the petitions, and if it generates such an issue that would demand that the electoral body should explain why it did not work, they will now convoke a tribunal and get the electoral body to face it. And I think this is the thinking of very many. I know that today much of the problems that the president and others were required to address were not a matter that can concern them. And you find out that most of those situations, INEC will simply come and in some cases, if they choose, they will just... So, Mr. Senate President, I again think we don't need to spend much time on this. I again think that the National Assembly need to take a harder look at our electoral processes and see if there is something that must be done. Well, he also said that INEC has so much to do, and that the Ways report had recommended that INEC should be unbundled. And most of the duties they perform now are actually burdensome to, in fact, a clog in their quest to be effective. I think his clear recommendation was that the recommendation of Ways panel should be adopted. Again, back to the National Assembly to take a critical look at this. All of you ran an election and you understand what he's saying. Take a critical look at this and see what needs to be done. I'm trying not to keep the president for too long, so we'll just be a little sharp. Another interesting suggestion the keynote speaker made was the issue of our legal and judicial system. For him, it was a mistake in the first place for Section 315 to be in our Constitution, I believe.
Yes.
For him, it imported everything from the colonial law, the colonial system, into our system, and more so uploaded the military decrees into our system. So for him, we should adopt the Rwandan model, where Paul Kagame, the president, simply set up a commission that overhauled the entire system, took out all that is not needed, and developed a system that is presently working in Rwanda. Mr. Senate President, I want to say that the National Assembly also will have a duty. Deputy Senate President, I hope you are with us. Honorable Speaker, you are with us. So you have a duty. Why we are approaching this is that the keynote speaker didn't just speak, he made suggestions. So we are only addressing the suggestions. And again on the system, he is of the opinion that the administration of justice should be separated from judicial administration. I know that this issue of competent lawyers being appointed to the Supreme Court had been on for quite a long time, and I know when he applied, and of course it was not seen as being part of our regular system, so it was quick to be thrown out. Well, again, it is for National Assembly to look at this and see if there is a window to make a law to permit the process whereby experienced and competent lawyers can be brought to the bench at the level of the Supreme Court. I was telling somebody the other day that even in the small countries around us, take for instance in Ghana, if you are a public officer, your spouse can be a judge. But in our case, you can be a governor, your wife will be a judge. It can't work. I will say it. So, I want to believe that this colloquium has generated a whole lot of work for the National Assembly. The most interesting suggestion he made before we come to the other one is that he sounded well, not necessarily an alarm. I think it's what is common to all of us already. He said there is much hunger in the land. I don't know whether he wanted the president to hear that, because we have always been hearing that. And his suggestion is that the National Assembly should support the president and make consequential laws that will support, that will cushion off the hunger in the land. And he gave an example of his own office. When he realized that the salary his staff were taking cannot sustain them, he decided to introduce a cook in his office who now prepares lunch and breakfast for his workers in order to support them and to cope with the challenges. Again, the National Assembly should take a hard look at this and look at where they can ingeniously generate law to support the executive. Well, The one, Mr. Fowler, I will come to you on this. I haven't gotten to where you are, but I think you need to speak on this. He said, and I believe he's talking to all of us, do good. Because the good you do today will speak for you tomorrow. And so he is saying that wherever we are, we should remember that all others are watching, and the record we create will follow us. So, Mr. Fowler, quickly on the issue of economic governance. Again, I'm not sure whether, okay, I'll jump some and come to you in some. He is saying that our ideological foundation for running Nigerian economy is actually not well positioned. That the Constitution actually preceded a situation whereby Nigerian economy should be run as a socialist state. And so we need to reposition it to reflect what actually we have in mind and what we operate today. And I believe that the National Assembly should be at liberty to do this. He also said quickly that the CBN also need to devolve some powers so that they can focus on some areas and possibly adopt the approach in UK. Finally, again to you now, so Nigeria cannot grow if we do not have a credit economy. And National Assembly should put a law in place to create this credit economy. Mr. Fowler, he said that the credit scheme, if not, is not a matter of the public sector capital, public sector revenue. It's a matter of the national asset as a capital. If we are not able to harness and position it properly so that people can wake up and access credit, the economy will not grow. What do you think?
I guess I'll be speaking as an economist now. Basically, yes, every country needs a credit system. But I don't honestly think that the National Assembly will be in a position to make a law that will warrant or will give rise to a credit system. It has to come from the private sector. What I was trying to drive at basically is that the state governments, which are the subnationals, have a very vital part to play. They have to be able to get their people to work, generate revenue, and in doing that, there'll be peace. Because you see, people who are not employed, if they're not employed, they can't even have access to credit. So I think the issue of credit has to be something that has to be done both at the subnational and then the national level, which the President of the Senate may cater to at a future time.
Thank you. Mr. President, we are running out of time, but let me simply give you the good news, which I know you had when he said it. He said the $1 trillion economy is doable. We only need to work hard. Maybe harness the tax and non-tax revenues, and that the individual agencies should not collect revenues. A single agency of government should be put in place to collect revenues nationally. National Assembly, please take note. And he also said we need to review our trade policy. And I am sure the executive should be able to review, generate a policy that the National Assembly will legislate on. He said the marine economy is such a wonderful vision of the president, and he is sure that it will make the difference in building our economy. And for him, we should introduce the Coast Guard. National Assembly again, Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are short of time, and we will draw the line here for this segment of the colloquium. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the chairman of the occasion. We will allow the chairman, who also acted as moderator, the lead speaker, and all the discussants to take a quick picture here together, and then we will thank you as you exit back to your seats. Thank you very much. Please, another round of applause for them. I think that was wonderful. We had time constraint, and I think this should be developed in the future to a full seminar with an enlarged membership of the Nigerian people who need to hear most of what was discussed today. Thank you. Thank you very much. You can please exit the stage. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Okay, that's for the, okay, President of the Senate. Thanks very much.
Thank you, as usual.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's appreciate them as they are stepping down. Thank you. And so, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're at that point now that we are getting ready to listen to the birthday boy, who's 61 years. Like I said earlier, 61 is an angelic number, and today we are here celebrating with him. Who is this man who has touched lives of the people from the grassroots to the national? They call him the uncommon man, uncommon governor, uncommon Senate president. But one of the things that people know about him is that he is patient and steady with all. He is ready to meet every challenge. Easy in manner, solid at steel, strong and unnerved. A man who will do whatever it takes to make people happy and achieve national development. Please join me as I welcome here, in a very uncommon way, the uncommon Senate President. Please welcome here the distinguished Senator Godswill, Akpabio.
Thank you, Mr. President, for caring so much for me, because you suggested I should walk through the other side so I don't fall here. I thank you. I was telling somebody that I ran around the stadium at Abuja to underscore that even at 61, I'm still able. So, Mr. President, without going much into a lot of discussions, I want to let you know that I'm also a visitor. I'm a guest. I did not organize this, so I'm a guest here. So I pay tribute to those who organized it, so that we can come and rejig our brains. I think this is where you and I function most, putting on our thinking caps and then delivering what the people want. So I thank them. And I think that team is led by my dear wife, Ekaite Godswill Akpabio. So I thank you. Well, when she thought of birthday, I don't normally celebrate birthdays. I'm not even sure whether that date is correct. So, but I know that from January 1 to 31st of December, I must have been born in one of those days in between. So that's why I don't normally celebrate birthdays. I love going to motherless babies. I was very well known at Isolo, in the motherless babies home. I used to go there to sit down with those children. And this is just by the side. Whenever I thought this 9th December was coming, I would go there and say, well, I must have been born one day in between 1st and 31st December. Therefore, let me choose that day to go. And I learned a lot from the experience I obtained there. So looking at the hall today, I will say the President of Nigeria, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, chosen by the people of Nigeria, elected by the people of Nigeria, even from the lead speaker, INEC owes you a lot of explanations. Because he pointed out that nobody should ask you a question as to how you won your election. There wasn't a problem between you, and some people still believe Peter Obi, whereas Peter Obi was third. So I think people tend to think that the party that came second was PDP. No, PDP went down, down, down. I think the issue actually, I think Peter Obi was third. Am I right? So why do people think that Labour did well? How could they have done well when they were third? They were third. Labour was third. So when they say, okay, don't ask the president a question, don't ask Peter Obi, they seem to forget that the person who actually contested and took second was His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. If everybody forgets him, I won't forget him. Because he was Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and he took second in that election. So INEC, from what the elite speaker has said, must explain to us how you will lose election in Lagos during the presidential election. And Lagos is your base. And like Mr. Fowler was trying to explain, the policies you put in place in Lagos is what has made Lagos the biggest growing economy in West Africa for a city. The biggest. He was trying to point out that even in terms of revenue generation, you made 600 million a month. But by the time you met the internally generated revenue autonomous, you brought in autonomy that even the House of Assembly did not understand when you said they must become autonomous. You were now able to put the parameters in place that today Lagos is getting almost 59 billion a month. Is it not possible for Nigeria? So whatever we are hearing today is not new. It's the fact that you have the right set of people to implement. You have a senator as president, you have a senator as vice president, and you have a senator as senate president, and a former governor for that matter. So I'm happy that you have listened. I've taken notes for you, and I will come to the villa so that we discuss all the issues that have been laid out today. So, our dear President, in fact, one of the other explanations that INEC will make to you is how we will win all the federal house seats in Ebonyi State. And we won the 3 Senate seats in Ebonyi State, and they said that you did not get 25%. APC won all the federal house seats, national chairman of the party. APC won all the federal house seats in Ebonyi State. We also won the 3 Senate seats in Ebonyi State. But in the final count for you, they said you didn't get 25%. So how did we win all those seats? And they gave out 350-something thousand votes to Labour Party, even though it did not help them. So I can't, but I sat down there, I was, my mind was saying that myself and the chairman of the Constitutional Review, Barao, must go back to discuss these papers. And I hope that our dear senior advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Abakoba, will give us a written paper. If you don't give us, we will transcribe from what we have recorded here. But we would like a written paper to discuss. Because this is the kind of paper that will stimulate the mind of Professor Ozekome. Ozekome, stand up, let the president know you are here and you were listening. Thank you. So in reality, sir, we have achieved the essence of our meeting here. First, this is a national gathering. The president is here. The Speaker of the House is here. The national chairman of the party that requires explanation from INEC is sitting here. You do require explanation. Because I actually listened very well. Mr. President, in the legal terminology, what they were saying is that we should shift the burden of proof from the person who won the election to the person who conducted the election. Because in spite of all your losses, in spite of the fact that you won Ebonyi State hands down, I don't think they gave you 15%. That's the truth. In spite of all your efforts to turn around the economy of the Southwest, particularly Lagos, they said in the general election, conducted the same day, that you did not win Lagos. So that's what he was saying. I think that has worried a lot of legal minds, that they must explain to you whether somebody was intentionally trying to cheat you from becoming president of Nigeria, but God did not allow it. So, the Deputy Senate President, my brother, the Deputy Speaker, distinguished leaders of the National Assembly, whilst respecting the ministers and others and other protocols, I must pay tribute to my royal fathers who are here. From the Emir of Kano, to the Emir of Gazaure, to His Royal Highness the Sunupe, and even to the other Highness, the minority leader of the Senate, who is sitting there crossing his leg, Abba Moro. I hope you listen. This discussion, and our takeaway from here, is for us to go and implement. My distinguished colleagues and House of Reps members and all Nigerians. Well, sir, I had a paper to deliver, but when I saw the speech, ex-tempo, delivered by the very brilliant mind, Oliza Bakova, I decided to drop my paper. So it will not look as if I cannot also do the same. Because he said he's 70 and I'm 61. Who should remember more? So I'm the one that should remember more. National Security Advisor. And Mr. President, because I ran around the stadium, a packed stadium in Uyo, people started calling me and saying, "Are you planning to be president?" I said, do you show intention to be president by running around a stadium? In fact, Mr. President, the Emir of Azara, my brother, who himself is a surgeon, he was there, and he was quarreling with somebody in front of my house. And I asked him, I said, "Look at this person. He's saying that the crowd was too much, that it looks like a presidential election, a presidential campaign." I said, "You don't need to quarrel, leave them." My people were expressing the love for good governance. And that is the way, anywhere you go to, Nigerians will rush. They will try to touch your clothes. Because that is the same way you are respected in Lagos and globally. The very first day that you took your steps into ECOWAS, in spite of the fact that the Anglophone countries are few, and then the Francophone countries are more, they collectively asked questions. Some of them were asking in French. Nusape, Tinubu, Asiwaju. And many of them said, "He is the one." They said, "Then if he's the one, let him be chairman of ECOWAS. We need change in West Africa." And you were confused. You became chairman. So I want to start by congratulating you for that. That you will take bold decisions to change Nigeria. There is no doubt about that. That the National Assembly is behind you. There is no doubt about that either. Let me be honest with you, sir. You are the first president under democracy to step out there and signify your interest and say, "Look, I believe this man is capable of doing that job." His Excellency Godswill Akpabio. And people started opposing. They were not opposing me. They know that I'm capable. But the mere fact that it was you who also said, "I support," and the party said, "I support," they said, "No, we must oppose this man." But eventually, as usual, destiny cannot be changed. And so I won. And I ran straight to your office. It is not that the National Assembly is going to be an appendage of the executive. No. It is the fact that he is the first president to get it right. And he got it right in Lagos because he brought the best brains to work with him. And that is what Nigeria needs. The right people who can think. I thank my brother, when he was talking, he talked about the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And he said he spoke to his brother, Zach. He's talking about your new chairman that you gave the opportunity, and we cleared in the Senate. That boy is very brilliant. He's going to deliver on the reformation we are talking about in the revenue sector in this country. We need the revenue to do all the things we are talking about now. Nobody has any doubt as to the integrity of your national security advisor. Nobody. Even when he was chairman of the FCC. So his presence here, and so far the calm that has returned, is evidence of the fact that, yes, indeed, you are also getting it right in that sector. There is no country you've been to that investors are not rushing to meet you. And some that couldn't see you in Saudi Arabia ended up in my office. I told them that I'm small p. You call me small p. Small president. I'm not president of Nigeria, please. He's there in the villa. They said we can't get to him. We are bringing 5.something billion. I said, no, it's too much for me. Dollars? And they said, yes. I said, I'll take you to him. So I'll bring many of them to you. I just want Nigerians to know that the renewed hope agenda is real. The renewed hope agenda is real. Where we are today was not caused by the present administration. We are talking about years of rot and misdirection of government. And even as we are seated in this hall, people are not aware of the quantum debt that you inherited, the deep hole that you inherited, because you've decided to keep quiet to see how you can do your best to fill it up to a level where you will now start achieving something. There with Nigeria, we are owing trillions and trillions of debts. I give you only one example of a parasata. I was Minister of Niger Delta, sir. The NDDC, under me, abandoned 1,400 and something projects. This one will start and stop. This one will start and stop. This one will start and stop. So when he mentioned that Nigeria has about 1,600 abandoned projects, it means that 1,400 are in the Niger Delta. That's the truth. And if you are talking about indebtedness, they are owing 1.9 trillion to contractors. So when people bring papers and say, oh, I've not been able to get my money in 11 years, I say, how much? They said, I'm being owed 2 billion. I said, it is actually 1.9 trillion that we need to even clear. Nobody will remember you. It's too small. My uncle warned me and said, Godswill, if somebody slaps you while going to secondary school in Port Harcourt, slap the person back, don't leave it for God. Because on that day when we get to heaven, there will be so many things for God to judge that he may forget that somebody actually slapped you. So those who are being owed should know that Nigeria is in such the indebtedness in Nigeria is such that if you are being owed small amount, don't go to the president, don't come to me, because we have enough debts to think of. So because of that, I became a tough boy. So if you slap me, I slap you back, because my uncle said, don't leave it for God, because I don't want that part to be forgotten when we get to paradise. So I want to thank the organizers for this colloquium, of course intended to rejig not just the memories of what we know already, that this government is a corrective government. I have already said the centerpiece of our legislative agenda, which my brother, the Speaker of the House, launched the other day, is nothing but people-centered. Ours is to think of the people of Nigeria that gave us this enormous responsibility and such a rare privilege for us to look into their affairs. I come from a traditional institution. When the white people came and they could not find emirs and obas in the southeast, combined then with south-south, they picked strong people who were administering their localities well. And my grandfather, the father of my father, Akpabio, was installed a warrant chief in 1901. He made sure that his domain, though he had these people wearing khaki up and down and all that, he had like a court, he used to sit in what they call NTA, Native Authority, but he did very well, and there was peace. Even if a goat strayed from somebody's house, they would take the goat back to him in the evening he will send the village on to drum around and ask somebody, are you missing your goods? But I know that by the time I got to secondary school, if somebody's goods should stray into Federal Government College, that good, that good will find its way into a pail in the bush, already being cooked as pepper soup. So the question is that Nigerians have somehow lost values. And they say in the computer, they say garbage in, garbage out. It is what we put in our children that they will display outside. So the degeneration of the ethos of the society is probably what led us to where we are today. But let's not talk much about corruption. In 1959, even when the colonial masters created Nigeria, the handing over note included the fact that one of the problems of Nigeria was corruption. In 1959, before independence. In 1959. So if somebody comes here to talk and says that government is not doing the right thing, government is corrupt, no, it started before independence, before Nigeria was born. Well, maybe I shouldn't talk much. His Royal Majesty Esunepe is shaking his head because he has an idea of what I'm saying. He must have seen the paper. You know, if we didn't meet like this, we will not raise a lot of issues. We've taken notes that we should unbundle INEC. I also believe that we should indeed revamp the Electoral Act. We've taken note that we should try to involve our traditional rulers in security, particularly in the governance of our various domains. We give so much respect to them, but we have not given them any piece of authority to our minister. I think that's an area that we'll also look into. We've taken note of the fact that most of the colonial laws are still in existence by virtue of the constitution that was given to us. We've also taken note of the fact that even military edicts and decrees are still inside our laws. We will be working on those things. But my advice always to Nigerians is that in 1914, when Lord Lugard decided to amalgamate the southern and northern protectorates to form what we call Niger area, which we now abbreviate to Nigeria, because I think that was what the wife was trying to say. The wife said, why don't you just name it Niger area, because of River Niger. So other people who couldn't say Niger area now decided to call us Nigeria. He did not consult our traditional fathers. He did not consult Nigerians. And so, but I always try to advise that a child of rape should not allow the circumstances of his or her birth to mar her future. A child of rape should not allow the circumstances of his or her birth to mar her future. So what I have always tried to practice is the fact of true nationalism. The true aspect of imbibing the spirit of brotherhood across the river Niger, across even the river Benue. We must be our brothers' keepers. We must realize that there are problems on the ground. We cannot do blame game now. So when the lead speaker came, he went straight into what he says are solutions. But the solutions left a lot of gaps, which I would not want to. I'll meet him privately to explain. The aspect of bringing senior legal minds to be judges was recently discussed at the judges' conference, and it wasn't met with acclamation. They felt that most of the senior advocates of Nigeria are flying around Nigeria in their private jets, that they chose to go into money making instead of going into the bench to give judgments. That how will somebody who is flying in the private jet come now to come and collect salary? That it may compound the problem of corruption in the judiciary. So I just want you to take it away. That even to fuel the private jet, to fly around after you have been appointed into the bench, that it may be a problem Well, Mr. President, that's just what we shall discuss that at the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, please note that. So maybe we can think of those who did not charge us too much during election matters. Because if you are used to collecting $1 million, $2 million from one person whose salary and emoluments in 4 years may not get up to 100 million, and you are charging him $1 million, that is in today's amount, that is 1.05 billion. Where will he get that money from? Then you now come into the judiciary, and then you realize that you are now going to be managing something in the region of maybe ₦1 million in a month, or if it's like my salary, yesterday I was told 511,000 naira a month, and Mr. President may not even earn up to 2 million naira. So the person will get dissatisfied because that amount cannot buy the fuel that he needs for his private jet. His life has to come down drastically. It may be like jumping from a 13-story building to the floor. They may not function well out of dissatisfaction. But we'll look at it and see how we can find some who have been charging us moderately whenever we call on them. So, Mr. President, he talked about economic governance, and I'm happy. But he mentioned something interesting, devolution of powers. I've always believed in that. There is need for us to look at the Constitution and devolve some powers to the states. And we also believe, I believe strongly too, that there is need for us to unbundle the federal government. That means if you're having 800 parastatals, we are more or less duplicating functions. There are some director generals and executive secretaries of certain parastatals who are far more important than the minister. In fact, if you go to function, people troop to the person. Okay, just compare me, Senate President, with my brother, Kyari, the GMD or so of NMPC now. Who would they look for outside more? Is it me or him? No, if we step out together, he's here. I'm sure he's here. Where is it? But you know, if we step out there, okay, we met at the ground floor reception in Hilton and in Charles Club before Mr. President came. You notice that over 7 people rushed to talk to you. Nobody talked to me. So even if I was a minister of petroleum, not Senate President, nobody will come near me because they've seen the man who is running a very lucrative parasata. So we will unbundle those things and see whether the ministers can begin to have authorities. Most of the problems they are going to have as presidents in the governance structure will be how to give respect to your ministers. Because some of them will push them aside into the gutter to run to the executive secretary of the other parasata who is actually delivering the goods. So there is need for us to rethink. And then, of course, we must teach the right education. In my small brief at the small observation in Angola, when I signified my interest to be an executive committee member, I pointed out to them that the last person who was there was Nwafo Rizu in 1964. They said, let's go for election. I knew it was a trap because the Francophone countries will immediately vote. How can you talk to somebody, how can you campaign with somebody who does not understand your language? Are you going to use sign language? So I said, okay, who is your candidate? They brought the speaker of Côte d'Ivoire. So I invited him aside. I said, as a speaker, I don't know what your ambitions in future are, but if you intend to come back to this position, if you contest against me, Alassana Ouattara will remove you when you get back there. And he said, why? I clicked, I showed him the picture of the man wearing my uniform when I commissioned the international stadium at Oyo, that is named Nest of Champions, Godswill Akpabio International Stadium. He was there along with other presidents because it was by the authority of ECOWAS. Then the then president of the chairman of ECOWAS was the president of Ghana. So I said, look at him here, look at me. We are wearing the same uniform. I sent people to Côte d'Ivoire to measure him, and he came. And so I need only a phone call to let him know that your speaker is insulting me. So phone him first, and then you'll find out whether you need to contest against me for this position. The next day, he came, he met the speaker of Ghana, We had breakfast, all of us, and then he now said that he had actually talked to his president. And the president said, that man is a great performer. So I have withdrawn. So, Mr. President, I told him, I said, don't tell the rest that you have withdrawn, because they will sponsor another person against me. So when we went in to the IPU, they were very shocked when they said Godswill Akpabio of Nigeria, and they said no opposition. The instances have been closed. So it was closed. So the deputy speaker, Benkalo, jumped up and said the game changer. I said, you are the game changer because he gave me the idea. So that is how Nigeria has sneaked in after 59 years. So this birthday is particularly important to me because I recall when we came back from the war, our houses were bombed because my uncle was the deputy premier in Eastern Region and actually the minister of education at that time. So he was the man who initiated the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. So they named a hall, Akpabio Hall, and named some streets after him. So we had a problem. The Nigerian soldiers who came believed that we were Biafrans. And in spite of the love we tried to show to them, they did not believe us. They said, you couldn't have been serving in the government of Biafra, and then you say you love Nigeria. The Biafran soldiers came and said, we must be saboteurs. Because how can you still stay at home when Nigeria had taken over Uyo? Nigerian soldiers had taken over Uyo, you people are still here. So a lot of my uncles were killed. And then our houses were bombed. Unfortunately, my father had died when I was 6 months old. He died. And my mother told me that God called him to heaven because a strong boy had been born into the family. So my school father, Olaolu, now introduced his father to me when I was in class 2. And he was hunky. He used to play basketball. And I said, Olaolu, is this really your father? He said, yes. I said, how can you have a father when you are so strong? He said, see this Calabar boy. That time we did not have a Akpabio. He said, go and kneel down there. Raise that pail up. You want my father to die? So while I was crying, the senior prefect came and said, what did you do? I said that Senior Olaolu has a father. And the senior prefect said, yes, he shouldn't have a father. I said, no, my mother said, anybody that is very strong, and the day he's born, that is the day that God calls his father to heaven. So he said, do you know that the vice principal has a father? I said, he can't. A vice principal of the school, his father is alive? He said, yes. So when they realized my foolishness, they now told me to stand up. They tried to explain to me that even the principal of the college, who was a white man, Mr. Kerr, that his father was still alive in UK. I couldn't wait for school to close so I could confront my mother. I said, you lied to me. All the strong people, including the principal, their fathers are alive. And you told me mine died because I was a strong person who would come and look after the family. So you can see, I said garbage in, garbage out. If strength was imbued into you from birth, automatically you have no option than to struggle to survive. So, Mr. President, that's why it looks as if when they press me down, I struggle to stand up. Because already I learned to fend for myself and the people around me from birth. So how did I then come around to celebrating birthday? My school headmaster said, I'm going to fill your form for secondary school. He said, stand on the wall, put your hand on the head. I did. He said, yes, you're about the same age with your classmates. Some of them have fathers and all that. When did they say you were born? I said, they said I was born in December. And they said, no. I said, what did I say? I don't know. He said, okay, I'll put it. He looked at me, then he wrote 1962. So that is why I'm 61 years old. Then when I finished the primary school, and I tried to go to secondary school. My uncle had built a secondary school called Independence High School after I finished as a minister. And then I felt I had a right to walk in there. And then the gay men kept turning me back. So one day I jumped over the Isora flower and I went to sit down. And they came there to drag me out of the class. Though I was injured. But what did they want me to do? They wanted me to pay 10 naira to be a day student. Unfortunately, my mother had others older than me, and so we could not afford the 10 naira. So I ended up in the bush to watch the weather. Once the sunlight came, I would now carry football and go from house to house to look for people to go with me to play the football. And then when I go to somebody, I found out that the school had not actually closed, that the sun came too early, so I returned to the bush to go and hide. So for that child to have grown, to stand before you as Senate President of Nigeria, I think it's worth celebrating. So I'm disclosing this for those of you who thought, oh, Godswill Akpabio, managing director in a telecoms company, a lawyer, a commissioner, many years governor, many years minority leader, senator, minister, all those things. You thought I was born with a silver spoon in my hand. I was actually born with a shovel in my hand. So I am very delighted and grateful that you are all here to honor a child that came with a shovel and not with a silver spoon. And I believe strongly that the presence of the president today is an indication that he belongs to the people. My people normally celebrate me because I'm part and parcel of them. I grew with them. I know their problems. And when I was a governor, I addressed those problems. When you were governor of Lagos State, I was studying you, and you didn't know. Outside the monumental things you did in Lagos, let me tell you that each house I entered, even during your tenure, they would ask me, Barrister, when are you going home? I said, I'm thinking of this weekend. They said, please, when you are coming back, bring me a kaite or akpan. I said, why? They said, my sister, Yemi, my sister's husband, Yemi, wants the house girl to go to London. And so we will not have any house girl from next week. So bring me a kaite when you are coming back. Then somebody will actually tell me that they have only one driver. And he needs a driver for the wife because the wife has just got a job with the All-States Trust Bank. So if you are coming back, bring me Akpan. So for them, a kaite was a housemaid. Akpan was the driver. And some will even look at me and say, why are you a lawyer? You would have been very good as a cook. Your people cook so well. So I realized that the difference between the driver and the car seat owner was education. So when I became governor, I declared free and compulsory education for my people. I built additional university. I went to Ikot-Ekpene. Those who knew Ikot-Ekpene, it was the first experimental local government in West Africa. I brought down the prison, the walls of the prison. It had been there for 108 years. Where in that place today, I took my senators there for retreat. They did not know why. There we have 14-story Sheraton hotel now run by Marriott. They enjoyed themselves. They said, this place is beautiful. There's no difference between here and Lagos. I said, yes, because I did not like that prison mentality. I had to liberate my people. Over 6,000 classroom blocks. And because I saw a flyover in Lagos, I built flyovers in my state so that my people also see flyovers. I used for 2 years, I was running to Owerri, running to Port Harcourt to cash flight. And I saw the number of people who died on the road while struggling to get to Calabar. So I said there was need for an airport in Akpabio. And I built the longest airstrip. 3.6 kilometers expandable to 4.2. And by the way, sir, I made sure that it was totally compliant with international standard so that the best planes can land there even by 1 a.m., 2 a.m. We use it to carry pilgrims to Mecca from there, and we use it to carry pilgrims to Jerusalem when there was no war. I changed not just the face of my the state, physically, I changed the mental psyche of my people. And I told them, begin to think like managers of the economy and not those who clean the crumbs after every meal in people's houses. And the story is different today. So, Mr. President, as we embark on this journey of transforming Nigeria, all Nigerians must collectively pray for you, that what you are used to doing should come to play. I have no doubt with the policies you've already started that Almighty Allah will guide you. Your election had nothing to do with religion. It had nothing to do with party. We were electing Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the man that has a track record of governance, the man that has done it before, and the man that we believe will do it. We are not mindful of the fact that there is insecurity in the land, but we know that you will do it. You bring peace to this country. You have made men. You've turned boys into men. Many of the presidents that ran this country, you were instrumental. You fought for us under Nadeko because you wanted Nigerians to be liberated. You believe in true democracy. Above all, you are a legislator. You know the yearnings and aspirations of the poor. 185 years ago, it took the United States of America 185 years of practicing democracy before they could have a senator and as president and a senator as vice president. That was Senator Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson. 185 years. Look at us. In less than 30 years, we are already celebrating a president as a senator, a vice president as a senator. Mr. Speaker, do you have any doubt that Nigeria will change? Do you have any doubt? Everything stated here and what I had in my paper, which I'm no longer going to deliver, I assure you, we will join you to reform Nigeria. We didn't come here for a boxing bout. That's not what brought me to Abuja. What brought me to Abuja was transformational leadership. We will transform the laws of Nigeria. We'll reform those things that we can reform for Nigeria to work. If we need to tinker more with the constitution, we'll do so. Because by the time we are through due process, and we collate what we have been able to, to change in the constitution, then we'll now have the people's constitution. Because through our lawmaking, before we can change or alter any aspect of the constitution, we must have public hearing to get the views of Nigerians, and that is what we will continue to do. So we are going to meet the aspirations of Nigerians, and that is my promise to all of you. And then we are not going to have that parliament. When I say that parliament, I mean both the National Assembly, the House of Reps, and the Senate, where myself and Tajuddin happen to be in charge with our dear colleagues. A very rare privilege, and I thank all of you. I'm sure when you elected me and my brother Tajuddin, you had expectations. We'll go above your expectations. That is the assurance I can give you. So thank you, Mr. President, for sparing the time to listen to me. And thank you, my dear wife, and the committees for putting this together. And thank you, Nigerians, for going to have patience for the president to do his best in the circumstances he has met himself. It is not that he's meeting Nigeria at 2.5 million barrels of crude oil a day. He's not meeting Nigeria when crude oil is $140 per barrel. He's not meeting Nigeria when the indebtedness is 5 trillion or 6 trillion. He's meeting Nigeria when indebtedness is over 48 trillion. He's meeting Nigeria at a time that NMBC no longer gives money to federation accounts. When I was a governor, they used to do that, but after a while they stopped. He's meeting Nigeria at a time that even the oil you are producing have been sold by past administrations. And so he's now going to use his head to think of how to generate revenue. That's why he's going round from one country to the other and saying, come to Macedonia and help us. And by the grace of Almighty Allah, you will be helped. We are praying for you. You have the wisdom, which you already have. God will give you more. You have the strength, and you have the support of Nigerians. When you leave office, you will be celebrated. Like Godswill Akpabio is always celebrated, wherever they see him. Thank you, and God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Can we give the celebrant a round of applause, please? He's actually spoken as a true Democrat. I know he has so many slogans, uncommon, but I think his greatest theme is God's will be done. And that has followed his career throughout his time. We congratulate you on this very special day. Mr. President, sir, with permission, we would like to have a presidential protocol adjustment here. So we will be taking the vote of thanks at this point before our special guest will address us. To move the vote of thanks, I invite Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, Speaker, House of Representatives, the House known as the House of the Nigerian People, to please move the vote of thanks. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, our mentor, leader, President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, and your amiable wife, the Deputy President of the Senate and your wives, Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, leadership of the National Assembly, honorable senators and honorable colleagues, the national chairman of our great party, APC, our excellencies, governors, present here, honorable ministers, distinguished friends and well-wishers present here, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to make these brief remarks, which will serve as the vote of thanks at the 61st birthday colloquium in honor of my brother and friend, Senator Godswill Akpabio, the President of the Senate. The presence of the President, His Excellency Honorable Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at this event is a clear recognition of Akpabio's contributions to national development at both the federal and subnational levels. In all respects, therefore, this is a rare occasion to honor someone whose career has been marked by such unwavering commitment and exceptional leadership. Throughout his distinguished career, Akpabio has embodied the values of persistence, boldness, strategic thinking, and innovative leadership. His actions, first as a governor and now as the President of the Senate, have consistently reflected a deep understanding of the complex challenges Nigeria faces as a society and a commitment to public service. The projects and initiatives he spearheaded in Akwa Ibom have contributed considerably to the economic growth and development of the state. Since our election in June 2023, I have worked closely with Akpabio, and I can attest to his political acumen and an unparalleled ability to bring people together. As we honor Akpabio today, we are offered an opportunity to reflect on the journey so far and the challenges ahead. It is also an occasion for us to reflect on the issues that have slowed our progress these past years and how to address them. Only by so doing can we develop solutions that uplift and empower Nigerians. Your Excellency, sir, distinguished senators, members, ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria holds immense potential to be a true regional and international leader. Our country's diverse and abundant resources hold significant potential for promoting inclusive growth and development. Our diverse population and cultural richness can be the bedrock for the creative industries. At the same time, the abundant agricultural resources can create jobs and reduce food insecurity in Nigeria, Africa, and the world. There are other limitless opportunities in the oil and gas sector, technology and innovation, regional integration, trade, and tourism. The key question, therefore, remains, why have we failed to optimally leverage these potentials and convert them to tangible developmental outcomes? Part of the answer lies in the fact that we seem to perpetually apply the same tactics in responding to the challenges that have confronted us. I contend that we can only achieve the desired progress by thinking out of the box and developing innovative approaches to governance. In an area characterized by rapid technological advancements and overwhelming amount of information, the ability of governments to make informed decisions is crucial for effective policy making and public administration. This is the novelty that the Tinubu-led administration brings to Nigeria. The 8-point agenda is the summation of the president's vision for Nigeria. It demonstrates that the government has moved away from the hitherto impulsive and haphazard approach to issues to a model predicted on adequate planning, preparation, and consultation. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest challenge, however, is translating the President's agenda into positive and tangible outcomes for all Nigerians. It requires that MDAs, as well as policy decision makers, take active measures towards mainstreaming the agenda into all national policies, plans, and strategies. Indeed, successfully implementing the President's agenda entails that all government agencies must integrate into policies, programs, and budgets. Therefore, a monitoring mechanism is essential in tracking progress by MDAs in this regard. I commend Mr. President's emphasis on ministerial performance. On our part, the House of Representatives has developed a detailed agenda that draws from the President's agenda and the aspirations of our constituents. We have also developed a robust tracking matrix with indicators over the short, medium, and long terms. A special committee to monitor the implementation of the agenda has also been constituted to also ensure that all legislative proposals align with our priorities and the priorities of this government. The House will produce quarterly and annual reports highlighting the progress we are making towards realizing our goals. At the retreat, Your Excellency, for chairmen and deputies of standing committees of the House, I employed all committees to develop their annual work plans based on the legislative agenda. In the ongoing budget defense, our committees are scrutinizing the 2024 appropriation bill against the President's 8-point agenda to ensure that the budget promotes food security, poverty eradication, job creation, access to capital, inclusion, and the rule of law, among others. I'm optimistic that our approach will ensure greater synergy between executive and the legislature and deliver governance to Nigeria. I wish to reassure the President that the House, and by extension the National Assembly, will work collaboratively with you to ensure the realization of your lofty dreams for Nigeria. Finally, I extend the warm congratulations of the leadership and members of the National Assembly on the occasion of Mr. Senate President's 61st birthday. Thank you for your extraordinary service to Nigeria. Your legacy will resonate for years to come, and it is an honor to celebrate your remarkable journey. The choice of eminent and accomplished guest speakers at this event will undoubtedly enhance the quality of the interactions in this particular program. I hope it will also identify areas for necessary legislative actions. Thank you, Your Excellency, for attending this program. Thank you, the Senate President. Thank you, the leadership of the National Assembly. Thank you, our honorable ministers, our party leaders, invited guests for coming to this occasion. May God bless you. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
May God bless you too. Let's put our hands together one more time for the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD. We thank you very much. You've been a worthy ally to your brother in the Senate. In fact, it has gotten to a point, red and green looks like the same color. Let's appreciate him. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And so, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the man that we are celebrating today alluded to it when he said this man loves people around him. He is a builder of people. He leads from the heart. He leads from the front. Has a commitment to his dream. He has an unshakable conviction. He brings out the best in people around him. He believes in Nigeria. And that is why at every function that I see him, I call him the man of men. Please join me as I welcome here the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please welcome His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR.
Thank you. Please have your seat. Thank you very much. Thank you. The celebrant, even if you don't know the date, we appreciate the date you've chosen. And we are happy to be here. Happy birthday, my friend. And our sister, the spouse of the Senate President. Thank you very much for the love and care you've given our brother. So the Speaker, House of Representatives, Dr. Abbas, well, you've displayed so much commitment to teamship, and the relationship between you, Godswill, and all of us is exceptional. You see, it is what is expected for a successful team. Thank you for always, being there for Nigeria and for all of us. former president and head of state here present, Deputy President of the Senate, our lead guest speaker, Olisa Gbakoba. Thank you. I didn't desert you on Bodilon Street, and we're still there. I miss you, all of you. And thank you for those beautiful remarks and very inspiring commitment to nation building, where we've been in the trenches together for democracy, and we are still struggling with it. The Deputy Senate President, governors, members of the National Assembly, our royal fathers, thank you for being here and for being patient, and for your contribution to the stability of this country. The former President of the Senate, thank you very much. You are very inspiring, and I could see in Amani also, the man who stopped the third term. Thank you very much. Secretary to the state government, all the leadership of the National Assembly. Well, it's a great day to think that we are celebrating our friend's birthday, but committed to the value of national development. I am delighted to be here, for I believe in the person of Godswill Akpabio. It's truly God's will. I knew him. I was a governor, he was a commissioner in Akpabio, and we worked together. We share a vision. Even though he was a commissioner, he will be extremely inquisitive, demonstrate a great inquisitiveness about what was going on in Lagos. I didn't know he was preparing to be a governor. We were in the palace of the Oba of Lagos when he took his title. I don't know, he didn't remember to mention that title today. So when I asked him whether his intention is to succeed Atta, he said he doesn't know, but he has the ambition. I didn't understand his answer until I found him on the podium campaigning to be a governor. And here he goes. He transformed Akpabio tremendously. Give you one example. Usually, there's always casualties and death with storms and problems of drainage. And after we discussed, he went and built one of the most effective drainage systems for Akwa Ibom. Today, up till now, no matter how heavy the rain is, you will never find casualty. I can't forget that. All the other beautiful things you did, the stadium, the hotel, and where you can run around and all of that. So that caring for the life of the people of Akwa Ibom is exceptionally great, and I commend you. Yeah. The opportunity you offered us to listen to the lead speaker and his recommendations will be definitely, look into a more deeper legislative activities in collaboration with all of us. We will work together. Why? We consider the affairs of this country, the nationhood, and the belief in one country will put us on the right path. Having you as a partner, having Abbas as a partner, as the speaker, is good enough for me to succeed. Inshallah, we will succeed. Yeah. I am here to pay tribute and appreciate today Godswill Akpabio. God will help you. God will grant you. Even if your age is wrong, God will correct it for you. Thank you very much. So on this occasion of your birthday anniversary, I'm delighted to join your family, friends, colleagues, and Nigerians from across the country in wishing you a long life of good health and peace, satisfaction and gratitude for abiding grace of God Almighty. To Uncommon Senate President, I wish you a happy birthday. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And so, national anthem. We allow His Excellency the President to